Good evening, everybody. First of all, congratulations if you made it all the way until the last talk of today at Cactus 2020. Today I will be talking about the power of LinkedIn, and in case that you haven't followed me yet on LinkedIn, or if you don't know too much about my background, let me start with a small introduction on myself, and basically to share with you how everything started for me here in Croatia. So when I was 22 years old, I was living in the Netherlands. I was studying marketing at the University of Leiden. And at that time, as a student job, I was also working in a company called M Plus Group, which was owned by a man with Croatian roots, Mato Božić. And in my last year of university, I had to write my final thesis, my diplomski rad. And I went to Mato and I asked him whether he liked the idea of me going to Croatia, where I would write my final thesis, and the topic would be to expand M Plus Group to this country. And that happened actually on the 3rd of September 2006, so almost a bit more than 14 years ago, that I collected all my belongings, put it in a car, and I drove down to Split. After being here for a couple of months, I started getting my first client, and by the time that I graduated from university, we had built a contact center that employed about 32 people at that time. And at that moment, after I graduated, I had a lunch with Mato where he basically offered me if I would go back to Croatia to continue what I started, that I would become a 50% co-owner in the company. Fast forward 9 years later, in the year 2016, we managed to build the company further. It grew to quite a big company. We had more than 400 employees in our Zagreb-based office. And at that moment, I actually got an offer to sell my shares. So at that moment, when I was 31 years old, I had a lot of mixed feelings. Of course, first of all, I was very happy and proud that I was able to build this company from the ground to that level. But at the same time, I was very scared because at that moment when I signed the papers for selling my business, at the same time I signed also a non-compete, and that would basically not allow me to work in the call center business for the upcoming 3 years. And that was something that I had been doing since I was 17. So I saw myself as a person that knew everything about running call centers, starting call centers, building call centers. And then for the upcoming 3 years, you're basically not allowed to do that anymore. And I had to completely reinvent myself. In 2016, therefore, I started a new business, which is called Webpower Adria. And just like in 2006, when I started the contact center, we were among the first companies in the region to actually provide such services to third companies, to telcos, to utility providers. And just like with Webpower, we became in 2016 among the first companies in the region that would be providing email marketing services. Now, I know that today there's a lot of speakers that are from the, let's say, digital marketing industry, and also a lot of people that are watching us this Cactus event today. They're active as people working in digital marketing agencies. Just wanted to emphasize that Webpower Adria, it's not a digital marketing agency. We are a company solely specialized in the channel of email marketing, and we're actually working a lot with digital marketing agencies for whom we are then providing our technical solution, the software, and also the services on behalf of their clients. So at that time, when I started Webpower, I mean, the company was developing according to plan, and I was also myself enjoying a lot to work with LinkedIn. But I was probably like one of those users, like 99% of the users on LinkedIn, a person that was not really creating any content. And these are the stats actually that I have for you here from March of 2019 until August of 2019. And as you can see, in that period of 6 months, I made only 5 posts. I had I had 149 likes on this post, a little bit less than 10,000 views, which you can see in the left corner, and an engagement of about 1.77% on my posts. And by the way, if you're wondering where do I get these stats from, I'm actually using an app. It's called Shield app for this. These are not the stats that you would be able to pull out of your regular LinkedIn account. So I was one of those users that, I would, for example, not invite just any invitation that would come my way. I wanted to always keep my connections very clean. I wanted to be in a situation that if somebody would ask me like, hey, I see that you are connected with one person on LinkedIn, can you maybe make an introduction, that I could actually say, yeah, I know that person, I met that person, I can make an introduction for you. But everything that I believed that LinkedIn could do for me completely changed after I made actually a business trip to Slovenia. It was the 3rd of September 2019, together with my colleague Martina Šepić, who is our director at Webpower Adria. I made a business trip to Slovenia. We were meeting with some potential clients. And by the end of the day, Martina wanted to go to a couple of shops in a shopping mall, to some shops that they didn't have in Zagreb. And she basically told me, you know what, if I'm gonna go shop a little bit, then maybe you can just grab a beer for yourself and we'll see each other in a couple of hours. So I agreed to do that, and I was sitting in a bar drinking a beer, scrolling a little bit through LinkedIn and through Facebook, and all of a sudden I got a reminder on Facebook that it was exactly 13 years ago that I went from the Netherlands to Croatia. So what I did, I made a screenshot of that photo and I turned that into a post on LinkedIn. And what happened after that was completely eye-opening for me, something that I never expected could even happen on a channel like LinkedIn. This is the particular post that I'm talking about. So it's just a short post where I'm sharing with everybody that exactly 13 years ago I came to Croatia. Big thank you to my family, friends, and everybody that believed in me, and also thank you to all the kind and warm-hearted people in Croatia for making me really feel at home in this beautiful country. As you can see, the post exploded. It went completely viral. Just know that at that time I had about 1,500 connections on LinkedIn. And I had more than 500 likes on this post, and more than 60,000 people saw this post. And a lot of people, they started looking at my profile, they started sending me direct messages. And it was a very unique feeling for me also that something like this could happen. A couple of days later, I was talking with the same Martina, our director at Webpower Adria, and she told me actually that as a result of this post, that several people had called to our office of Webpower Adria to ask about an offer. So we actually generated leads, and more as a joke from her side, she told me like, well, maybe you should just continue creating some more content on LinkedIn. You never know what will come out of it. And I agreed with her. So I started making some more content. I wanted to just give you a couple of examples of what I did after that. First of all, it was a very difficult period in terms of content creation because I didn't have a lot of experience in it myself. And after you have a post with more than 500 likes, you kind of hope and expect that the content that you're providing afterwards is also going to be really picked up, and that people are going to respond in a similar way. But that obviously didn't happen. So I had to create different kind of content. Here's an example of a post where I said that Webpower Adria had defeated MailChimp, that we are employing more people than MailChimp. Obviously, this is a bit provocative because MailChimp, like you all know, they don't have any office in this region. So even if you have only one employee, you would be employing more people than MailChimp in this region. But the engagement was really very good. I had more than 12,000 views on this post. 12,000 people have seen this brand Webpower. 149 likes, again, good engagement in direct messages. Another example of content that I've been providing is content where I talk about the combination of actually being a family man and an entrepreneur at the same time, because I'm a father of 4 children. So how do I combine being and a father of 4 and also owning several companies in this region? These are the kind of posts that people also very much enjoy reading. 364 likes on this post alone. And another type of content that I was putting out there was really talking about how much I actually love being an entrepreneur in Croatia. So what happened after that is, so I made another screenshot here of the report from Shield app from the 1st of September. So after my first post that went viral until end of February. where you see that instead of having less than 10,000 views on my content, I had more than 600,000 views on all of my content, and that on approximately on 40 posts in total. More than 8,600 likes, a very good engagement of 1.6%, a lot of comments, and we were actually getting over time more and more leads also for our business with Webpower Adria. And then it was beginning of March, where we all had to go into a lockdown. And even though we were all in, sort of say, self-isolation, I never felt more connected with the world, with the people in this region, as a result of all the engagement that I was enjoying on LinkedIn. And I continued to produce content, also very much connected, of course, to the fact that we were all in lockdown. And just after we had to go in lockdown, there was a very strong earthquake actually in Zagreb. And I made a post on that where I wrote something like, stay strong, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay positive. Obviously, a lot of people, they needed a bit of support during these very difficult times. And that showed in the type of engagement that I got on this post. This post was liked by more than 2,600 people. It had been for a very long time my very best post. It was seen by more than 110,000 people. And what a post like this does to me, actually, for me as a content producer, as a provider of content, is that it actually allows me to rapidly increase my number of followers or connections. Another type of content that I put out during that period was that knowing that tourists were not able to come into Croatia anymore at that time, I made my first buy local post where I said something that this year we were not going to go with our family for a holiday abroad, but that we were actually going to support the Croatian tourism industry by staying in Croatia and booking a hotel in this country. Again, content that was very much enjoyed and accepted by my followers, more than 1,500 likes, 76,000 views on this content. And the last example in this category is that during a time where companies like Facebook and Twitter, they were all kind of like showing off that from now on their staff didn't have to go back to the office anymore, that they were going to allow their people to start working from home indefinitely. So I picked up on that news where I actually made a post saying that the tech giants, Facebook, Twitter, and Webpower, who employed at that moment only 6 people, that we allowed all our staff to work from home indefinitely. And this is, again, a very nice post where you have a lot of engagement, a lot of views, where you're actually able to display your company in a very nice and positive way. So it was around the same time, just at the beginning of the lockdown, that I was actually asked to participate in a virtual conference. It was called Tourism 5.0. And I was going to get the question, what can we do to turn Croatia into a year-round destination? And at that moment, I still have no experience whatsoever in tourism. I called up a very good friend of mine, Paul Bradbury. And Paul Bradbury is the owner of Total Croatian News, and he is all the time writing about the tourism industry in Croatia. So I asked him if he could maybe send over a couple of articles to me so I could read up before the virtual conference, and perhaps with what I was going to read, maybe I could even sound smart at that panel. And as I was reading that at late in the evening, the day before the conference was going to happen, my eyes fell on 3 words, and these were digital nomad tourism. And I thought by myself, okay, this is it. If we as a country are welcoming 20 million tourists to come every year to Croatia, then why wouldn't we be opening up our borders and start receiving digital nomads? So I mentioned that at this virtual conference. The same evening, it was also featured in the news on HRT, on Nevnik. And after that, I started a series of promotions on LinkedIn, where I started promoting Croatia as a perfect destination for digital nomads to come. And the post that you see now is actually the post that still until today is my best post if you look at it in terms of engagement. I basically invited digital nomads to come and live in Croatia as long as they bring their job with them. And I highlighted some of the benefits of why Croatia is really a beautiful country to live temporarily as a digital nomad. That I repeated a few more times, just promoting the country. Really huge engagement every time I made a post on the topic of digital nomad tourism in Croatia. And one Saturday morning, I woke up and I decided to write an open letter to our prime minister on LinkedIn, Plenkovic, where I was going to ask him if he would be so kind to consider introducing a digital nomad visa in Croatia. With a lot of support from my followers and everybody here in this region, uh, this post got more than almost 200,000 views. It had 5,200 likes on this post. And what happened also after that is that actually the mainstream media, they started picking up on more and more of my content. Very often I actually recognize that there are, for example, journalists that are working for newspapers or web portals. They're actually engaging with my content. And if they see a story on LinkedIn that they believe is a good story for their newspaper or web portal, they reach out to me and they ask me for an interview. And then, as you can see, I give answers and statements and I share some photos with them. And then they're putting it out there in the mainstream media, which is obviously therefore all free publicity that I'm getting as a result of my LinkedIn activities. So very soon, actually, after I sent that open letter on LinkedIn to the Prime Minister, I got I was asked by the Prime Minister's office if I would be so kind to send an email to the Prime Minister himself, further elaborating on the idea of introducing a digital nomad visa in Croatia. And very soon after that, I was called by the Ministry of Interior, by MOOP, if I wanted to come over for a meeting. And what I did after that is actually also because of all the support that I was getting from the people on LinkedIn, I wanted to be very transparent to everybody to keep them up to date on all the further developments connected to this digital nomad visa. So I first of all shared that I got invited to meet with the Ministry of Interior. Again, huge engagement. After that, I actually shared photos and content on what happened during those meetings. Here's another example of that where we met with the State Secretary for Interior, Teresia Gras. And 44 days after I wrote the open letter to Prime Minister Plenkovic, I actually had an opportunity to meet with the Prime Minister, who told me during that meeting that he believes that this is the world where the world is going to, that more and more people will start working fully remote, that more and more companies are going to be open to the idea of having their staff working fully remote, and that we as a country, Croatia, should be among the first countries in the world to start welcoming digital nomads by regulating their stay. And in that meeting, he actually brought a piece of paper with him where he had a text that was going to be included in the Alien Act, so the Act on Foreigners. And he told me in that same meeting that prior to my meeting, he had a meeting with his cabinet, and his cabinet gave him the full support to introduce um, this section on the digital nomad for temporary staying permit in the Foreigners Act. After I finished the meeting, we made a photo with the Prime Minister, and this is what appeared on his. He made a tweet about our meeting. Of course, I also made a nice LinkedIn post about it. One of the other things that I did on LinkedIn, already in a couple of examples that I gave back, I started talking, of course, about buy local and how I think it's very important to support companies locally in times where Croatia is suffering a lot from not being able to welcome tourists. So I also initiated a buy local campaign for Webpower. And the way I did that is I made a post where I solemnly swore that for every 25 companies that would switch from MailChimp or another software that they would be using to Webpower Adria, that I was going to hire one full-time person in our Zagreb office. The campaign was having phenomenal results, really overwhelming, and it actually resulted in us being able to open up two positions in our Zagreb office. So I communicated that as well. In this post, you actually also see the link where people can apply for the job position. On the job positions, we received nearly 100 applications, so I didn't have to advertise on job seeking websites anymore. Just one post on LinkedIn was actually enough to get more close to 100 applications on the two positions that we had. And after we had actually hired the people, I shared it again on LinkedIn very transparently. We have a buy local campaign. For every 25 companies that switch from MailChimp to Webpower, we're going to hire one person. We have two open positions and we hired two people. So we kind of closed the circle there. So just to show you the stats of the following period, which was from the beginning of March. So basically since we entered into the lockdown until the end of September. During that period, instead of having 600,000 views on my post in the prior 6 months prior to this period, the numbers exploded to millions of views, 5.2 million views on my content in that 7-month period alone. More than 111,000 likes. Altogether, I made 176 posts, and the engagement was also really very good with 2.34%, where basically everything above 2% is considered to be extremely good. Another side effect from everything that happened on LinkedIn is that I was actually very frequently asked to be speaking at certain events, to do an interview on television. Even one camera crew came over to my home to report, to make a small documentary. So these are all side effects from everything that basically happened or started on LinkedIn, and I got to meet really great and phenomenal people as a result of that as well. So what has LinkedIn basically given me over the past 12 months? Millions of views. It has helped me to double up my business in Webpower, Adria. It helped me to introduce the digital nomad visa and to actually change the law in Croatia on the Alien Act. It helped me to recruit great new people that we were going to hire in Webpower Adria. A lot of speaking engagements and a lot of media attention, all free publicity on newspapers, web portals, and even also on television, and meeting the top management of really the biggest companies also in this country. So I would like to use this opportunity as well to, in a nutshell, basically give you some tips and tricks on what I've actually learned over the past 12 months, being really working very intensely on creating content on LinkedIn. So the first thing that I think that you should be doing is to define for yourself what is your target audience. And if you would ask me what is your target audience, I'm not interested necessarily to create content that people from all around the world will enjoy. For me, the content that I'm producing, it's really very much focused on Croatia and on this region. So think about it for yourself. What would be your desired target audience? Think also for yourself, what is it actually that you want to accomplish with creating content? And bear one thing in mind, you are not creating content for yourself. If you are creating content for yourself, then you can just print it out on an A4 and stick it on your own wall in your house or in your apartment. You are creating content for your audience. So what are your objectives that you want to accomplish basically with sharing this content? Do you want to motivate people, inspire people? Do you want to educate people? Do you want to do business development as a result of it? Do you want to just meet like-minded people? Define that very well for yourself. Then regarding the content, in my opinion, there are 3 different types of content. The first type of content is content that your audience enjoys reading. The second type of content is content that you want that your audience reads. So these are messages that are important for you that you want to share with your audience. And actually the best type of content is content number 3. That's the perfect post, is where you are actually combining first and second post type of content. So content that your audience enjoys reading, but it includes messages that you want your audience to know. And to give you a couple of really clear examples on that, this is one post where, just after the lockdown, all the entrepreneurs, they were screaming for support from the government, and we were all afraid that the government was actually not going to do anything and that it was just going to protect the public sector. So I made a post saying Uzbekistan is bankrupt, stop protecting the public sector and start saving the private sector, because at the end of the day, it's the private sector that needs to pay for everything. Um, Obviously, this is content that falls into category number one. It's content that my audience really enjoys reading. And you can see that in the engagement, almost 2,500 likes. Another example of content number two, which is a message that I want my audience to read, is, for example, that we as Webpower have decided to prolong our buy local campaign. I, of course, want my audience to act upon that and that they are going to contact us and that they are actually going to switch from MailChimp to Webpower. And you see that engagement on a post like that is not comparable with content type number one. 259 likes compared to almost 2,500 likes. And then the best post of everything is where you combine the first one and the second one in one post, which is this one, for example, like stop buying Spanish strawberries, Italian tomatoes, and US software if you can buy local. So here I'm emphasizing how important it is to make conscious decisions on actually supporting companies locally. At the same time, I include my message with Webpower and that we are competing against a software like MailChimp, which is a big global tech giant. And you can see that even though I've been able to convey my message in this LinkedIn post, asking people to basically contact us to ask us for our services, I got more than 2,000 likes on this post and more than 100,000 views on this. So this is the perfect post that you could possibly make if your goal is, of course, to do business development. When to post? What I'm going to say about this is supply and demand. You need to make posts when there's a low supply in content being created and a high demand in content being consumed. So when is that, for example? In my example, what I do is I very often make posts very early in the morning. Think about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. When everybody starts waking up, nobody is making any kind of content. We're all drinking our coffee and we're scrolling through LinkedIn. So there's almost no content creation, but there's a lot of content consumption. And that is, for me, the right time to create content, because there's at that moment less competition in terms of content around you. And if you get good traction in your first hour or 2 hours of your post that you make, then you can almost be assured that the rest of the day, your post is going to continue performing very well. What are also very interesting times are, for example, Saturday or Sunday late afternoon. These are also one of those moments when almost nobody is creating any content, but there is a lot of people consuming content at those moments. And how often to post? There are some people that say, you should post every day. And I'm going to just say that I disagree with that. I think that you should post whenever you believe that you have great or good content. If that means that you have great content every day, then sure, post every day. But if that means that one day you don't have good content, then don't start making posts because you want to make content every day. It's perfectly okay to skip days. In the beginning, when I started creating more content frequently, I was making about 2 or 3 posts per week. And now I have to admit that I'm probably on about 5 or 6 posts in a week. But like I said, if there's a period where I have nothing to share, I'm not going to post just because I want to post. If there are any questions, feel free to do so now. Thank you so much for being with me today, and don't forget to go to LinkedIn and to give me a follow or to connect with me. Thank you so much.